There's two parts to selecting a layer, one from the canvas, two from the layers panel. It's crucial you understand there's a big difference in your workflow depending on how you choose to work. Here's the idea. In this PSD, I have tons of layers, I mean over 100 easily, right? What's the first thing you notice? Yep, I have everything well organized. I have folders properly named, but they're also in a certain order. So one main menu is actually the first element on the canvas. You can see that now. 2 hero area and 3 pricing plan are in the same order. So I could have positioned one main menu in just about any place on the panel. Like so. But then it would have been much more difficult to identify it. That's why I said in the beginning there are 2 parts. It's one thing in the layers panel and another on the canvas. They're connected but separated, if that makes sense. Moving down, you'll see inside each folder there are other folders, and in some cases even more folders, but all of them are properly labeled. This makes it easier for me to identify a certain layer in the layers panel. Organization is key. Without it, you'll struggle no matter what. So remember this, always name things accordingly in the layers panel and arrange them in an order that suits you. That's the first thing you have to know before you start selecting and moving things around. There's another thing you have to notice. In this type of layout, everything is separated, so there's no overlapping whatsoever between elements. That means that I could have positioned them in just about any order in the layers panel, but still I didn't because I knew it would have made it harder for me. So selecting a layer or a folder in the layers panel becomes easier if you stick with what I showed you, but there's also other ways of doing it. The best way is this. While on the Move tool, hotkey V, you hold down Control or Command on a Mac and you click on the layer you want to select. I'll click on Home, for example. Watch the Layers panel. Did you see it? Let me close it up and do it again. So now I have the main menu folder selected, right? I'm holding down Control while on the Move tool and I click. Bingo, now Home is selected. This works just about anywhere and you're free to try it out. I have this PSD attached to this lecture. This also works with folders. Focus on the top left and you'll see a drop-down. Currently it says Layer, but if you click it, you can select Folder. Now if you Control-click, you'll get that entire folder. Please note that if you have folders into folders, this method will select the big folder, the parent one, so that's something to keep in mind. Also, I advise you to keep it set on Layer since it's much more useful. You may be wondering, but if I can select anything from the canvas, why do I have to waste time arranging my layers panel? It's true you can use this technique most of the time, but for medium to big projects, this tidiness really pays off. It helps you find layers you wouldn't be able to with the Control-click method. You set yourself up for easier modifications down the road. You can share the PSD with other people and they can easily sort things out, and many other reasons. Going back to selecting things, some people prefer to check this option, Auto Select. This eliminates the need to use the Control key. So if you have this checked, it means that no matter where you click whilst on the Move tool, you'll select that layer or folder. This also means that if you're not careful, you can easily move things around by accident. I strongly discourage you to use this feature. In my many years of using Photoshop, I've tried it for a few days here and there, and I can safely say that, at least for me, this is just a pain. Going back to the subject, this is where things really matter. You Control-click, but you always have to keep an eye on the Layers panel. This is because sometimes you'll get elements that are very close together, like this dark blue background and this light blue line. I may have wanted the line, but it's very easy to select the background by accident, so always focus. You may think you're on a layer, but unless you get confirmation from the Layers panel, don't rush to perform an action. There's also something else. I didn't get the exact layer I wanted, but at least I'm very near it. So my clean panel pays off yet again because I can select it from there. Some people like to check this option at the top, Show Transform Controls. This is yet another thing I discourage. People use it because it's easy to see what you have selected. Yes, this does help, but it also makes things busy. When you're working in Photoshop for more than personal reasons, you need to be efficient and focus 100% on the task. Every single detail counts, so this is why we use the full screen mode to get rid of all distractions. This is one of them. So while it may help you out a little bit, I'd rather have a cleaner canvas and take a quick peek at the layers panel to find out where I'm at. Another thing you should know is how to move a layer from one tab to another. You do that from canvas to canvas. You never move it from the layers panel, that's a separate thing. So if I want to move this layer to another tab, you need to be on the Move tool. Have the layer selected in the layers panel, and then click and drag over to the new tab. Let's do that again with another layer. So I select it from the canvas or from the panel, it doesn't matter. I click and drag from the canvas over to a new tab. I'll wait 1 second until Photoshop shows me the other project and I'll let go. A few things to mention. When you move a layer upwards and drag it into the new tab, if you switch back, you'll see it will remain in the same position. That's great because it doesn't mess up your alignment. Also, if you drag to a new tab and hold Shift while you release, the new layer will be positioned in the center of the canvas, both horizontally and vertically. Here's a nice way to select a bunch of layers fast. This is the only time you might use the lock function. We'll select the background. From now on, I'm not even going to mention it, I'll always use the Control-Click method. Then from the top of the Layers panel, I'll press on this lock icon. Great. Now I can do the following while on the Move tool. I'll hold down Control and I'll drag out a rectangle. Whatever is in that rectangle will be selected in the Layers panel. This makes it very easy to select a lot of layers fast. If we didn't lock the background layer, this would have happened. It would have moved constantly. So now you know the following. Keep your Layers panel organized and you can easily find and select layers and folders. Use the Control-Click technique to select layers or folders. Lock the background, hold Control and select lots of layers at once while on the Move tool. Let me show you a bit more. While selecting multiple layers, you might get a few by accident. In this case, I made a selection where I wanted to get the main menu, but I also got this image underneath. I know I didn't go that low, but I'll explain later why this was selected. In any case, I don't want it. What should I do? Well, I have two options. One, I can go into the Layers panel and while holding Control, I can click it. This deselects it. Or two, I can hold down Control-Shift and click directly from the canvas. This does the same thing, it deselects that image. How do you make sure you've got only those layers you wanted? The way I do it is simple. I select a bunch of layers and then I move them slightly, just enough so I can figure out if I selected the right ones. If I see there's an extra layer, I can hold Control and Shift, click it and get rid of it. Then I can undo with Control-Z so I don't mess up my alignments. Like I said, I want to maintain my focus as much as possible on the canvas. Searching in an organized layers panel is still fairly difficult, but imagine if this was messy. Lastly, we'll focus more on this search feature. Now that you know Photoshop's layer types, you can use it without problems. First, searching by name is easy as pie. As long as you know what you've named your layers, you can use this without issues. You don't have to know the exact name, just the first few letters. Searching by kind is great. Click on the last button and you'll see all the smart objects in the project. Click on any of the other ones to find their type too. If you don't recognize their icon, just hover a bit over them and you'll learn them fast. The next lecture will be an exercise. Please read the instructions carefully and then get to work. Do it at least 3 times just to see how you get faster each time. Make sure you don't rush on the first try and think about the best ways of going about it. If you have problems, go to the end of the course to see how you should have solved it.